quickly before we jump into everything for tonight's NBA slate, I did want to say, with Thanksgiving coming up and the holidays and everything, I'm going to be working a lot, but I'm also going to be with a lot of family, and we have a large family, a big Thanksgiving deal. So I'm going to be like, I'll sometimes probably just putting my content straight into the premium Discord rather than posting it. If I, especially with basketball on a slate like tonight where we've got a million question marks. Just wanted to get to that, and then want to talk to Sheets about almost winning it all last night, and then we'll get into today's slate.
I had a couple of things to talk about. First of all, we went I was ranked like 6th as far as like percentage of unique lineups, like all the people who played like yesterday.
Wow.
And one of them was really, really live. Let's just put it that way. A couple of things could have happened, whatever. And it's listen, that's what you got to do when you're playing like that type of tournament. The other thing I wanted to turn yourselves onto, it's like my DMs have been blowing up like the last 12 hours. So I did this video yesterday on the LOLZ podcast where I didn't know where I was going to go. I told them listen, I can talk about whatever you want. And it just ended up with me just kind of like saying what I've been saying here all the time, that no site really teaches people how to play like on a regular basis. And it kind of like just descended into this whole thing where they were like arguing with me about it. And, it's funny because the two people I'm talking to, like one of them like really, really benefits from the general, content, that being Pete, and he's like really good at it. And Brian really benefits from people not learning how to play, So it's and he was like talking about this, like, why would you want to teach people how to play and make it so hard, or whatever it is. I kind of fought with about it, but it's funny, I got all these DMs and all these people are like, why, it's so awesome that you think that way or whatever it is. And it got me like re-energized in a way that every video that I do, I just kind of always think about, did I actually teach someone anything when I did this? And if not, I'm just not going to even upload it. And that's the real need. And listen, I encourage everybody to watch it because it's a lot of back and forth between whatever. And I could have maybe said things a little bit differently. Like, Pete said to me one time, he said, well, do people really want to learn it? Don't they just want the plays? And what I could have said was, listen, we got a lot of people on our channel who really do want to learn how to play. So maybe there aren't that many, but I know that the people that are here really do want to learn how to get better. So I don't know. I'm going to keep on firing and doing what I do. And appreciate all the new follows and the DMs and stuff like that. I got a DM from some guy who ran this is like really funny. So I want to read this to you. He's a guy who says that he knew me back from poker. And this is what he just basically went off for like whatever. And then he says, how did they didn't realize that the fish leave and you're trying to create a bigger ecosystem? And then he's like, your background is poker. You saw what happened. He just goes kind of on and on and on. But it was definitely kind of revealing. It was definitely fun to do. And hey, I got like 50 more Twitter followers. So maybe that'll lead to more traction over here as well. But we're gonna continue.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome, man. I thought it was pretty great, and it would have been nice if you capped it off with a $500,000 win last night.
Oh, I would have been so sick.
All right, well maybe tonight. Maybe we get 100,000 win tonight. Okay,
dude, I'll settle to be in contention. How about that?
Okay, yeah, fair enough. All right, what do you got first? The Knicks in Washington?
I have the Knicks in Washington, and just again, as Bobby mentioned, he might not be around for live, but I will be. It's a 7:00 start, so I will be there at 6. And I have New York, Washington first. And again, these projections are probably like, I would say old. They're like an hour old. So if anything's changed in the last hour, you let me know. But I don't really see too much from this game. I have my best point per dollar play right now is Mitch Robinson. And whenever I see that, I think that, he's just a center and everybody's a good player at the center. So I really don't have too much from the Knicks or Washington in this game.
Well, it's the same story as always. We every day we've done a show, it feels like we've talked about how the Knicks are uninteresting, and then we get RJ Barrett ruled out, and then everything changes. And that's what's going to happen again today. If RJ Barrett is out, the Knicks are you're just going to load up. We also have Quentin Grimes questionable. So if RJ Barrett's out, go right to Josh Hart. I think you're playing at least one of Brunson or Randall as a priority. Now, there'll be other priorities, but those are two guys you would consider. And on the Washington side, I have nothing, but I might look further, I guess, if somehow that happens. I'll tell you what, I've been doing this for a long time. I don't think I've ever seen the Knicks with a 117 team total. I feel like that it just doesn't seem like even reachable, but against Washington, I guess it makes sense. Anyway, let's jump over to Milwaukee, Charlotte.
I wish I had I wish I had a lot in this one also. I mean, I have Giannis as a play here. I don't have him rated as high as a couple of the other spends. I mean, I hate to do this, but at this early juncture, I wouldn't be surprised if I ran a build and got none of this game either.
No, that's great. I mean, there's nothing to be apologetic about. Look, if we can cross games off the list,
hey, the projections, like the plays are what they are. I can't force stuff. It doesn't
absolutely,
exist.
But also you want to make a big slate smaller. And the truth is, we have no idea what to do in this game because, well, first of all, I assume Giannis will play. If he doesn't play, obviously everything changes, and we're back to the same business of some combination of Lopez, Portis, Lillard, and that's pretty much it. It's all it's right there. It's pretty straightforward. Gordon Hayward and Brandon Miller questionable for Charlotte. If they're out, that might be something worth doing, but probably worth noting that Miles Bridges is supposed to be back after a year plus of being gone. And he will probably play his 20 minutes or so, or maybe 24 minutes. So even if those guys are out, it's not like anybody becomes necessarily a must play, but we certainly could look a little further with Hayward and Miller out. They're questionable right now.
Miles Bridges, I was wondering what happened to that guy, huh?
You don't want, I'll tell you what, you don't want to look it up. It's pretty bad stuff.
Oh.
A lot of aggravated assault, put it that way. So unfortunately. All right, Boston, Toronto. Anything for this one? Because we've got a bunch of questionables here.
No. So why am I not coming up with any plays?
This is great. This is what you want. No plays.
No plays. Isn't that great?
No, it's great because you don't need to have plays in every game. There's 11 games. Why do you have to play in every game?
I get it. But if you asked me to put in my best projected guy, I guess Tatum, but I don't even have that. Let me see. No, I mean, I don't have anything.
Yeah, it just depends on who plays. Again, we have all these key tags in the morning. It's Kristaps and Jaylen Brown are questionable. If they're out, there's probably something I want to do here. On the Toronto side, I actually am considering some things because Podol's supposed to play this time. I'm sorry, Gary Trent is supposed to play this today. So it's a little bit of a, not quite as great of a spot for Siakam and Scotty Barnes. But I don't mind like a long shot Scotty Barnes play. I guess that would be my favorite thing. I guess I don't really like much, but Scotty Barnes would be my favorite long shot play.
I'm gonna do an early build. Just make sure I'm not.
No, this is right. I have the same things you have.
Yeah, no, I know, but this is one of the reasons I like to do an early build, just to make sure I'm not hallucinating or anything. But yeah, I mean, so far, like if I ran a Saber symbol, like nothing would come. Like I would get a little bit, like you said, of Mitch Robinson and basically nobody else. So anyway, okay, so this next game I got some stuff. Right now, I mean, if I had to say, I would say that Embiid would be the best play on the slate by pretty sizable amount. If you want to know the truth, I would have him, given the price, I would have him over Jokic, and other guys in this game as well. I mean, you get Tobias Harris. I haven't projected highly on, but I have at a pretty high point per dollar projection for him. And then the other guy from Philadelphia was DJ Melton. So yeah, I all three of those guys. Now it would be nice to have like a run back if I was going to play more than one of them, but nobody from Atlanta really stands out for me. I guess Trae Young would be the guy, right? He's 9,200. I guess he'd be the guy. So play Embiid with Trae Young. Certainly, if you played more than one Philly guy, I would want to play Trae Young. But yeah, Embiid, Trae Young, I think are probably the players in this game.
Yeah, I think that all of Philadelphia is pretty interesting. I can make a pretty good case, I think, for Melton, Harris, and Embiid, and Maxey. To be honest with you, I think that the best thing to do is probably just stick with Embiid. And as of right now, that's all I've got from this game. Sorry, excuse me. I'm not on the Atlanta side here, and maybe you're right. Maybe getting a little Trae would be not a bad idea. I also don't think it would be the worst idea to get to Okongwu, especially with Capella starting. There's always a potential for foul trouble. Okongwu off the bench, you're going to need to have a big out there. I just think that Okongwu, and we know their minutes, like they're always projected to play about 25 for Capella, 23 for Okongwu, but sometimes it's 28 for Okongwu and sometimes it's 28 for Capella. And Kongwu at 4,700, I think is interesting enough to at least consider. So
you know what I kind of like doing. You know, so I ran like the Saberson build. And even though this is weird, I like to compare this stuff. Like here are like the sheets that I put out. Like, even though like Embiid, I have Embiid as literally the top point per dollar play. Even so, like on the slate, and I'm getting like almost zero of him in my build.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen because there's no value yet, and there's going to be tons. I'm telling you, this video that we do, like, it's important to remember what you did first early in the day. But it's also important to know that almost like a lot of what we're saying is going to be irrelevant because there are literally like 95 questionable tags on this slate.
Right.
Anyway, we can move on to Sacramento.
Sacramento and San Antonio. I have Zach Collins showing up, at least on the sheets, as a play at 6,500. Again, these centers are always very they're very interchangeable to some degree. So here's one. So I have Malachi Branham at 3,900. He was actually like right now the value would be showing up. Like you said, I mean stuff that's going to show up later. But like if you had to like run it now, which you don't, like Malachi Branham would be one of the value guys that would show up for me. So him, Sohan, I guess again at 5,800, he would look pretty good. I don't know if I can get to Sabonis, but Fox is up to 9K. Malik Monk at 5,400. All right, that's something that I would play. So if you wanted to do that, you want to play a couple of the San Antonios, maybe with a couple of Sacramentos. I don't know. But Branham looks like a decent value at this early juncture. Collins looks like a solid play amongst a whole bunch of centers. Sohan looks okay, and I guess Malik Monk would be my preferred mid-range guy.
Yeah, it's interesting. I don't have like first of all, Malik Monk, if he's 25% owned and you're playing him, I think that people are making a mistake. Simple as that. There's no reason it's really weird on big slates when De'Aaron Fox was out, people weren't even playing that much Monk. Why all of a sudden with Fox back and Monk playing 20 minutes in the last game, are we going to play him at 25% ownership? I think it'd be a terrible play at that ownership. At low ownership, I'm willing to take a shot. I really think it's a god awful play to make those kind of plays. So that's my personal take. Again, if he's sub 10% owned, you have my blessing and I'm on board. Same with Kevin Huerter, but I have no interest in them at any ownership whatsoever. I think De'Aaron Fox is the best play on Sacramento, and I think that Sabonis is the second best play. And on the San Antonio side, I really like. Again, just gonna reemphasize it every show. There will not be a slate. I don't know if how many lineups or if I'm going to get to even play tonight. Depends on when I can get into my hotel when I get out of here. But Wembanyama is always going to be 15% of every slate. Both Collins and Sohan are fine, but not like my desired plays. I'm curious, Sheets. Clay Davis asked a question. What does this mean? I'm just asking what it means. He says, "Can you show us how to apply geometry rules?"
Oh, geomean? I'll do it. I'll tell you what. I won't do it now, but I'll do it in the showdown slate because that's where it's more relevant.
Okay.
Basically, all that's doing is just making sure that the lineups that you're playing are not likely to be duped. I'll tell you what. I'll promise you that between now and some soon, I'll do a specific video on how to do that. But I will refer you, by the way, to SaberSim because they have at least 3 videos specifically on that. Like if you go to SaberSim and go SaberSim YouTube channel / whatever geometric mean, they go over it ad nauseum. I promise you this: if you do that and you can't get the answer, I will promise you that I'll do a specific video on it. It'll take me 5 minutes, but it's just not particularly relevant to NBA because NBA you're never really worried about being duped. But for other sports it is relevant. So I will remember to do a special tutorial on that.
Nice. All right. Moving on to the next one. What do you got up next?
Next one I got is now I see where your issues come from with the and I'm like, what the hell? What's the order here?
I know it's a little confusing. I think it might be Orlando, Chicago, or
no. I have Detroit. I have Detroit, Cleveland.
Oh, there you go. There you have it.
I have Detroit, Cleveland, and Detroit, Cleveland. I do not have much of anybody from that game in any of my builds of literally of any kind. Like I'm looking through. The highest owned guy I have early is like I have a Darius Garland, presuming he plays. I have him at 8%. So, and like Mobley at like 4, and I don't think a single guy on Detroit. So I imagine that none of those guys are going to look good.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to figure out what the hell is going on with the Pistons. They're trying to figure it out as well. Kevin Knox now has the highest true field goal percentage in the history of basketball.
Let's go.
After being the second lowest and the third lowest the last 2 years of any player, but he's only played for 52 minutes of the season. They're projecting him to start tonight.
Oh God.
There must be a word that I didn't hear. It does seem like the obvious double. You play both.
It says here he was practicing with the starters during the morning shoot around.
Yeah, maybe that happens. It seems like a really weird matchup to do that when you're playing against Mobley and Allen. I really don't understand why you would go away from it. Also, Bagley coming off of by far his best game of the season against another team that plays big. Like he was awesome against Atlanta. I like Bagley as a play, even if he doesn't start. I think this is like a matchup where you're going to need some size. Surprisingly, Cleveland has actually allowed more stuff to bigs than you would think. And I think Bagley is an interesting play look, it's bizarre, right? Like especially if he comes off the bench. But first of all, if he starts, I definitely would play some of him. But he got a little life in him, and he sort of convinced me a little bit after he's let everyone down. Feels like another spot where he could put up like 40 fantasy points at 0 ownership. So I'm just going to say that I think he's interesting. And I think that the pricing on the Detroit guys is starting to get a little bit interesting with Cade Cunningham, who, I don't know, just cannot make a shot to save his life, but is still, heavily involved in the offense. Asar Thompson, who's awesome, but also can't make any shots. They have a bunch of guys who can't make shots on Detroit, so maybe that's why they're going to start Kevin Knox, I guess.
I forgot what metric they were referring to, but Cade Cunningham rates very, very low on the list as shooting percentages and things like that.
Yeah. Anyway, on the Cleveland side, as of right now, assuming that both Mitchell and Garland play, I don't have anything that's standout. I have no problem playing Evan Mobley. But if either Garland or Mitchell are out, that becomes a priority to play with the other one, or Levert, and possibly Max Struss as well. All right. Let's see what we got up next.
Now I have Orlando, Chicago.
Okay.
So DeRozan remains questionable, personal. You have to wait to see what happens with that. In the absence of that, I don't have too much on Chicago. Orlando, I'd be getting to at least early builds. Like Banchero, Wagner. So when these types of things kind of come up, it's usually like you said, because there's not a lot of value out there. So like straight 2x2s, like Embiid or Jokic with some 3,500, as opposed to 2 7,600 guys. And until you get that good 3K guy, then these 7,300, 7,500s are going to just show up in more things. So just because, again, like these guys are showing up as really great fits now, doesn't mean that they're going to be great fits later. But right now, I'd be getting a decent amount of both Wagner and Banchero from Orlando.
Yeah, there isn't a ton of value, and I think both those guys are fine. I have no priorities at the moment in this game. I think Banchero and Wagner are fine. I'm willing to take a shot on Jonathan Isaac. I know you're only going to get 16 minutes out of him. The guy just puts up 20. He gets 2 blocks and 2 steals in every game. I would consider taking a shot with him. And we've seen him at 16 and 17 minutes lately. Like, that makes me feel a little bit better. Maybe one of these days, if he plays 20 minutes, the guy's going to put up 25 fantasy points basically all the time. So just keeping an eye on that one. But realistically, by the end of the day, you're never going to end up using that play on 11-game slate. But it might be a guy who you sub somebody else in for, which I would have no problem with. But I think Banchero and Wagner are the main things. The question is whether DeRozan plays. If DeRozan plays, I think he probably will. It makes nobody important to me. If he doesn't play, I think you're playing one of Levine, Kobe White, or Vucevic basically across the board, and potentially Patrick Williams as well. So that's what I have to say about that. And you've got up next, Phil. What do we have? Denver, New Orleans?
Yeah, Denver, New Orleans. You're getting so Jokic is obviously always a good play if you can get to him. And what's his name continues to show up, the Michael Porter Jr. as a strong play. I mean, I get him. Looks pretty good in projections as far as like early runs. I'm getting a decent amount of him as well. I'm also getting some Reggie Jackson. Feels a little shitty, but And then there's Aaron Gordon. I'm getting something of him as well. I mean, with Murray out, I mean, you're just going to get something with all these guys. So if you can get to Jokic, that's just terrific. If otherwise, at least Porter remains a good play, and those other two mid-range guys I talked about.
It's interesting, actually. Jokic, it seems like he's the one who people side with more than Embiid, and you're the other way. It sounds like, but 11-4 is a big difference between 11-4 and 12-5. I just want to point out that Jokic is projected at 65 fantasy points, hasn't scored less than 68 without Jamal Murray in like the last 20 games that he's played, basically. So I will just say that Jokic is probably getting 70 tonight or right around there. And Michael Porter Jr. is also totally in play as well. I agree with that. And on the New Orleans side, I think they're going to be, well, I guess more healthy than they have been. But still, I mean, I'd like to do something with Noah McCollum. I don't have anybody as priorities, but I think it's not a bad idea if you're going to play Jokic to maybe run back a Brandon Ingram or a Zion. And I think Najee Marshall is very thin value that maybe you could use as a placeholder. That's
Najee Marshall. I forgot that he even existed.
Yeah, I mean, he's actually projecting pretty well on SaberSim, and you're going to have different sites with different projections for a guy like that, but they do like to get him in there, and he's pretty active. He put up 30 fantasy points the other night in 20 minutes. He has that kind of ability to put up a bunch in no time, but probably not a guy you're going to want to use tonight, but just a guy to consider for the moment because we don't have any value. And by the way, we keep saying we don't have value. I'm telling you there will be value later today, I promise.
There will be value the second I push the next button.
The second you run the projections, right?
Second I do.
All right. Phoenix and Utah or Lakers and Portland?
Yeah, Utah, Phoenix. And then you're getting two guys showing up for Utah, for me at least. That would be Sexton and John Collins, both in the builds and in the sheets also. And again, 4,100 on Sexton could become worse as other value opens up. But right now he's showing up in a decent amount of my builds. The Phoenix side, I'm just not seeing much of anything. As Nurkic would be like the best play, but again, there's so much competition for that position. I'm getting like a sliver of Eric Gordon maybe. But aside from that, not much. Well, other Utah guys are kind of showing up a little bit. Olynyk again. Keontae George again a little bit. So, yeah, I guess there are more guys in this game than some of the others.
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble with this one. I don't understand the early projections on Eric Gordon being this popular. I promise you, it's definitely the right thing to do to fade it if he's 20% owned. That's all I can tell you for sure. And this is what my slate. I'm sorry, guys. Like I'm not coming up with a lot of plays, but that's just how I feel about the slate right now. That I don't have a lot of things that I like, and I don't think playing chalky bad plays are a good way to solve that. So I'm not going to play a chalky bad play in Eric Gordon. But if he was low owned, I think he's worth a shot. That's simple as that. And I do think Nurkic might be in play a little bit more than normal tonight. It's a really good matchup, and I just think it's interesting. Booker and KD a little too high priced, and we don't know about Booker's minutes right now. And my guess is they're not going to push him past like 32, but they might. You never know. He's the guy who sort of toughs it out. But I just am not quite getting there. And I think Keontae George is fine. I think John Collins is like legitimately a solid play, but nothing that I'm going out of my way for. And I think Colin Sexton is a great tournament play, but if he gets ownership, I have no interest. That's just the way that I'm going to treat those kind of plays mostly throughout the season. So again, it's just it just depends on what you think happens, and it's really hard to project a team like Utah. Colin Sexton might one night play 10 minutes, he might play 28 the next, like he did the last game. He put up 34 fantasy points. He might be an incredible play, but you also might have 30% of the field playing a guy who literally might play like 10 minutes or 12 minutes or something. You know what I mean? So yeah. I just would rather get off of that personally. A lot of landmines to dodge so far because everything that's showing up as good plays, I disagree with almost all of it. And it's only because there's a lack of value on the slate that everyone's trying to force this stuff in my opinion. So definitely feels like a middling build early on that's probably going to turn into a stars and scrubs later on.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Do you want to talk Lakers in Portland?
Sure. Are these guys just going to be projected like questionable every day and play every day, I guess?
Pretty much.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's the way it
But
goes.
I do. The Portland side, Skylar Mays is looking like right now. Again, like this is right now is ridiculous. But right now, I would be getting 78% of like Skylar Mays, just because again, this is the price range that I'm getting jammed into. Like look at what I have here. Like Skylar Mays, Tobias Harris, Michael Porter, Zach Collins, Bencher, everybody between 5,600 and 7K. For a lack of value. And as the slate develops, Skylar Mays might end up being a good play, but might not get into 70% of my lineups, might not get into any by the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
But so far he looks to be. Listen, he's got. He doesn't have multiple position elements, but he's point guard and shooting guard. But he looks to be a good option for Portland. Jeremy Grant, I still get to him every once in a while. You don't get to him as much as I do. And really nothing on the Lakers.
Yeah. I look, it feels like a kind of game where Davis could have a monster game.
All right.
So regardless, if I didn't look at any projections, any numbers, anything, I just think that it was also a bounce back spot. I mean, I don't know what the hell was happening the other night. Like Sabonis literally, if you watch those two guys play, Sabonis was just so much better than he is. Like, I mean, he dominated them. It was ridiculous. It looked like Davis couldn't even do a thing. And he tends to have games like that and then bounce back with 7 blocks and a 20 and 20 kind of a game. So I think Anthony Davis is is a guy to consider tonight. Also, the Lakers are favored by 9 in this game. I just want to point something out. They lose to Portland last year when Portland only had 7 players or 8 players available, but only 7 that would play. They got smoked by a Portland team with the Lakers fully healthy. And they got smoked by a Portland team where the best player on the court was I don't even remember. I don't even know if he's on the lineup on the roster. It might have been Jabari Walker or something like that. It was really, really bad. So I do expect this game to stay closer. That Portland takes it very, very seriously, these games with the Lakers, even if they don't take the rest of the season seriously. So the home games against the Lakers, I just think this game is going to stay close. So I kind of like the Anthony Davis play as a differentiator tonight. But and Skylar Mays, tell you, it doesn't feel like the right thing to do to play him at what's probably going to be very high ownership. I think I would rather play Shaedon Sharpe, and I think I would rather play DeAndre Ayton. Actually, I don't even know if I want to play Ayton. I think I'd rather play Shaedon Sharpe. I think that's probably the guy who I could settle the most on. I think Jabari Walker is a very good fantasy point per minute player who's been getting some run. Maybe it's a placeholder spot, but he's put up 29, 22 in the last 2 games. I think there's a chance that he could get there. Not an exciting play, but again, just a value placeholder that I thought I'd mention because I think there is going to be a lot of late news on this slate. All right, Clippers and Houston.
I got 2 things that are showing up for me now. Again, it's to be a function of whatever. So I'm getting Sengun. We always play Sengun. So
yep.
Bunch of good centers, but I think he's just as good as all of them, if not better. So I do like that. And I'm getting some, again, this is kind of a theme. I'm getting some lineups with Terrence Mann in them, just because and Norman Powell, just for a lack of anything else. I'm also getting some Terry Eason from Houston.
Mm-hmm.
So these are value plays that might not even exist by the end of the day, but that's what at least I'm getting for now. But as far as the guys I play, I think Sengun is probably going to end up being a good play. And again, it's a late game, so all else being equal, it's always good to have guys in late games.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would probably do something like if I were between like say him and what team is Collins on? He's one of the early games, right? I would rather just play Sengun, for example, and just buy myself a little time. I think.
Yeah, I have a pretty strong take on this game. One, I think this is the worst line in the history of NBA that I've ever seen. The Clippers finally looked like a real basketball team the other night and almost beat Denver. Other than that, they've done nothing but get absolutely obliterated since they got James Harden. And they've lost every game with James Harden. And they're playing a team that's better than they are. Houston's a better team than they are. And yet somehow they're 8-point favorites at home. Get the hell out of here. That's a ridiculous. I don't care what actually happens in this game. Get that line out of here. It is the most egregious line I've ever seen. Well, it literally could go the other way. I could make an argument that Houston should be an 8-point favorite in this game. I have no idea why the Clippers are an 8-point favorite against Houston here. I think it's crazy. So that immediately, that's one thing I'm going to do right after we get off this. I'm going to talk to my buddy, say, hey.
Oh, no, we're doing it right now. No, we're not.
Yeah, we're betting Houston outright, and we're betting Houston to cover, and we're betting all the Houstons.
It's true transparency. We're gonna We like 240. Is that good enough?
Yeah, love it.
Okay, I can't. Can I do it
How are
right
they
now?
plus? I mean, I don't even understand this. It's like I've never seen it. And it made so little sense to me.
I think I could do it because we're not using. Yep, we're in good shape.
The
So
Rockets are also the best. They've been the hottest team in the NBA. They won 6 in a row. What's going on here?
all right, here we go. We're playing for 180 to win 612 on Houston for
I like it.
all the cheese. There you go. I'm in.
And you know what? The NBA will probably throw the Clippers a bone and let them win a game at some point. And like literally,
Let it be a different game. Let it be a different.
I hope it's a different game because that is a ridiculous line. The Clippers are nowhere near as good as the Rockets, which sounds crazy to say out loud at this moment. But that's just, I'm telling you that if you see a bad line, you gotta do it. So I love that, Sheets. Anyway, I love Şengün. I think that it's a completely smash spot for him. I hate that term, but I'm back to using it apparently. Jabari Smith, I think, is a strong play. I think Fred VanVleet and Şengün, I think you should play one of them. As of right now, I will probably have them in one of those two guys in all my lineups. I think Terrence Mann is going to start getting more and more run. He's going to show up as a projection play. I love these in the later game. Both Terrence Mann and Norman Powell should be in your pool, and I probably will play one of those guys and use them as placeholders. Like I mentioned, some of the other guys, these are better placeholders because they actually make some sense. I also think that you can make an argument for Harden and for Kawhi here. I think Harden, this might be a spot where and it's Harden versus Houston at home, like with the Clippers, only a second game at home, I believe, with the Clippers. I think this is a spot where I could see Harden having a big game at 7,600. So I like the idea of getting exposure to this game, playing a little bit of that. You know, maybe you play Şengün and VanVleet and Harden in a lineup, and I'll tell you what, it's going to be very different, and that's probably what I will build my first lineup doing today.
Right. It sounds good to me.
Yeah. All right. All right, man. Anything else before we get out of here?
No, but hang in there with me.
And guys, just a reminder, I'm going to try to get my content up a little bit later today when we have a better feel for the slate. And then hopefully I will be there for live, doing the best I can for that one. So good luck to everybody, and we'll see you at 6 Eastern, hopefully, or